Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Muhammad Danish Haikal bin Azran from ED250. Today, I am going to present about my case study for educational psychology, EDU550. My research topic is teachers' perspective on strategies to overcome academic anxiety and self-worth protection among secondary students. The reason why I choose this topic is because the concerns regarding students' inability to perform academically in the classroom. So, high school students today are Gen Z, and most of them have the same problem, which is they cannot perform well due to existing anxiety and self protection. Hence, the reason why I conduct this research. So, these are few researches that have been written and conducted by other people that further solidify the reason why I choose to conduct this research. So, the objective of my research first, to identify teachers' perception of academic anxiety among secondary school students. Second, to explore teachers' challenges while handling students with academic anxiety and self worth protection in the classroom. And lastly, to examine strategies teachers use to support students with academic anxiety and self worth protections concerns. And then, let us move to literature review, which are the relevant theories to the research topic and findings from existing research. So, this research has shown that how intense pressure can be as it undermines emotional well-being in ways similar to academic anxiety and self-worth reflection mentioned by the two teachers I have interviewed, such as anxiety, poor sleep quality, substance use, high level of stress, and burnout. This particular research aligned with what the two teachers I interviewed mentioned about students that avoid participation, fear of making mistake, or lack confidence, which are behaviors that reflect self-worth protection in the classroom. This research relate very well with what both teachers said, which is about students experiencing fear of making mistakes, avoidance, reluctant to participate, and loss of confidence. And then this research aligned with what teacher one said about students avoid participation, lose confidence, or struggle despite understanding the content that they have learned with the teacher. And the last research mentioned about how students often lose sleep, avoiding school, melting down over homework, or cannot enjoy being with the friends, and align well with what the teachers mentioned about students avoiding any participation, fear of mistakes, losing confidence, and sometimes disengage entirely, which are behavior that identified as serious sign of academic anxiety and self-protection. And then we move on to relevant theories. So there are three theories in this course that I think that could relate well with my research topic. First is attribution theory, second is Vygotsky's theory, and lastly, Bronfenbrenner's ecological theory. So these three theories I think are very relevant to the research topic that I'm conducting right now. Before that, let's talk about methodology. So the method used in this research is qualitative method, which is conducting an open-ended interview to collect data in order to explore any phenomena. It typically involves exploration and understanding of people belief, experience, or opinions. So, in order to conduct this interview, two teachers I have choose, they comes from different experience, and I have been personally asking them to share their insight regarding my research topic. So the first interview is an active high school mathematics teacher with 4 years of experience and is currently teaching at Sekolah Menengah Sains Sembrong Keluang Johor. The second teacher, however, is someone with a very high years of experience, which is 20 years of experience, and is currently active teaching English subject at Sekolah Menengah Kebangsaan Cabang 4, Kampung Cabang 4, Tumpat Kelantan. So, when it comes to collecting data, an online interview through Google Meet has been conducted, and both teachers were asked the exact set of questions. So the goal is to collect data from both teachers' experience and perspective, as the question allowed them to express their own point of view regarding my research topic. So after the data have been collected, I have found similarities and difference from both teachers. When it comes to similarities, both teachers recognize that academic anxiety is not just about academic ability, but it is very closely linked to student self-worth protection. Basically, academic anxiety and self-worth protection is very close. And then both teachers emphasize the importance of creating a supportive learning environment, whether through effort-focused praise, positive reinforcement, or careful classroom interaction. Basically, both teachers want to have a really comfortable classroom environment where teacher and students relationship is prioritized. Lastly, both teachers acknowledge that supporting academically anxious students is very challenging and constrained because they are not psychologists nor counselor, so they found it very hard to support students that suffer from academic anxiety and self-worth protection. When it comes to difference, there is one major difference that is heavily influenced by year of teaching experience. So teacher one, which is the novice teacher, views anxiety primarily as fear of mistakes and low confidence related to academic pressure. So he think that anxiety is mostly just on the learning phase itself. However, teacher 2 sees academic anxiety as something that changed significantly, shifting from fear-based compliance in the past to disengagement and lack of interest in the present. So teacher 2 think that academic anxiety doesn't come from what they learn, but it comes from within the student itself, from the student themselves. So let's proceed to main findings. Teachers recognize academic anxiety primarily through observable classroom behavior, since both teachers state that they can see the student is the student is suffering from this academic anxiety from their own eyes. Second, student-centered guidance is very important to support academically anxious students. So in order to make the students confident and comfortable in class, student-centered guidance is very important as they want to make sure all of the students will get the attention they deserve. And then, lastly, academic anxiety is closely linked to fear of failure and self-protection behavior. Just like what I said before, academic anxiety and self-protection are very closely linked. And then, let's proceed with relevant theories. First of all, attribution theory by Bernard Weiner. So it focuses on how individual explain success and failure, just like what teacher once said, on how students keep on doing things like giving up easily and fearing mistakes. Teacher 2 also emphasize on understanding students' background, also support the idea that attribution are shaped by context and experience. And then we move on to Vygotsky's theory. So this theory emphasizes on social interaction, scaffolding, and zone of proximal development, which is ZPD. Teacher one's strategy of breaking tasks into smaller steps, starting with easy question and gradually increasing difficulty, is literally what scaffolding within the ZPD is. And then teacher twos emphasize on approaching students, understanding their background, and indirect guidance also reflect the importance of guided support. Lastly, Bronfenbrenner's ecological theory. So both teachers explicitly mention multiple environment layers that affect academic anxiety. Teachers one focus is on classroom climate and examination pressure, and then teacher two focus on family background surrounding changing time and societal shift. There is three that I found when it comes to broad burners, which is microsystem, macrosystem, and chronosystem, and these three fits in the research topic that I conducted. So the summary of this The summary of this research topic is objectives have been achieved successfully. The interview managed to highlight both similarities and difference of opinion by the two teachers. Academic anxiety and self-protection in the classroom is something all teachers should be aware of, and all teachers must be ready to support students. Possible future research. Since we have conducted research with teachers, why wouldn't we do the same to the students? So I've come up with secondary students' perspective on academic anxiety and self-protection. Second one is comparative study of academic anxiety and self-protection across different subjects. Since teacher one is mathematics teacher and teacher two is English teacher, it will be very interesting to see how academically anxiety students academically anxious students react to different subjects. And then lastly for recommendation, teachers are very encouraged to emphasize on creating emotionally safe classroom environment, and parents should work with school to support students with emotional well-being. With that being said, we have come to the end of my presentation. Thank you very much.